Hello, everyone, and welcome to Walford Weekly, your weekly EastEnders podcast, where this week we'll be discussing the episodes that were released on the BBC iPlayer and aired on BBC Two in the UK from Monday, the 4th of July, 2022. I trust you are all well. I hope you all are having a great time in the sunshine. Yes, finally, Scotland has a bit of sunshine as well. As we're recording this, the grey clouds have blown away. And I tell you who's shocked by this revelation. Nice. It's my co-host and my friend. It's Rob, everyone. Hello, Rob.
Hello, Alex. Hello, everybody. How are we all this week? You've got sun. I can't believe it. That never happens in Scotland. You know, when you're watching the weather forecast, they always say, yes, sunny everywhere. A few showers in Scotland, a few tornadoes in Scotland, a little hurricane going through the top of Scotland. So I'm very pleased that you've experienced what the rest of the country experienced in that big glowing orb in the sky that makes you go all tanned and lovely. So there we are. I
mean, we had it during the Jubilee, while you guys down south had nothing. So we kind of lucked out there. We had a good Jubilee weekend, but okay. But then I don't think the Scots are very royalists, but please correct me if I'm wrong. Say straight away, starting off, correct me if I'm wrong, comment below or get in touch at Walford Weekly. Rob, yes, it's time to change the dots, Rob.
There it is. It's time to change the dot, everybody, and we have dot stuff to discuss this week. It's very exciting. As usual, I have not looked at my calendar for next month, so we go from Nick and Ma. No, Nick, Nick and Ma. Pre-heroin days. Goodbye, June. We are now into July.
Ooh. Now it's the I Ain't Want to Gossip pose.
It is. It's the I Ain't Want to Gossip picture. Oh, how lovely. There we are, then.
It's like they... Stop. Hang on. I feel like we should ask for just copyright for that.
I know. Can we get money from this?
I don't know, because originally it's the BBC's picture, isn't it? But then, I mean, again, as usual, whenever we change the dots,
far more use out of
it. whenever we change the dots, whenever we change the dot cotton calendar, this is much more riveting for people who are watching this on YouTube than those who are listening on the podcast. But basically, suffice to say, it's a picture of Dot holding a cigarette in a trench coat. Yeah.
Which is the one that we use every week when we go across to I Ain't Want to Gossip.
So, so another reason to watch us on video on YouTube. But and every week something goes wrong when Rob tries to hang up the calendar. This week the whole calendar fell on the floor. At least the main part stayed up.
The main one's there, so there we are.
The main part stayed there.
There we are. July 2022. There we are.
It's brilliant. So, but
Yes, because there was a nice little mention of Dot this week in the form of Sonia, because this week was the 37th anniversary of Dot Cotton's first appearance. Now, I feel that if the sad event that June Brown, dying, we probably wouldn't have mentioned her 37th anniversary. However, obviously this was the show's first opportunity to sort of pay tribute to Dot. Yeah. We've not really had any mention of, when we might address the fact that, Dot is no longer with us. I wonder if they'll do something for the centenary. I feel like that would be quite a good time to do it, like a big Dot funeral and bring a few old characters back for the centenary, if they choose to do anything for the centenary. I don't know. We've not had any talk or mention of it or anything.
That's the weird thing, because they've not, because the BBC... So for anyone who doesn't know, so possibly people outside the UK, it's the 100th anniversary of the BBC this year as well. So they're doing lots of special documentaries and shows, and there's lots of adverts out basically saying, hooray, the BBC. And EastEnders hasn't really had a mention in that, which is a little bit surprising, and also on the cusp of worrying, but still. But I agree with you that I think that EastEnders should do something for if they're going to do something, they need to get their move on, because I feel like they're leaving it quite a long time, and I don't think they could really stretch it much longer.
When is it? September, isn't it?
I don't know the official anniversary, but they're kind of celebrating it for a year from this for the whole of 2022, aren't they? So I hope they do, and I hope they do bring some characters back. Who do you think they could bring back? I mean, do you reckon they could ever convince Tully, the Tollster, to come back? And Michelle, the original, the OG Mish.
She does work for the BBC because she directs Line of Duty these days, I think. So and she's quite a well-known, successful and established TV director. So it would be nice just for one episode, a little bit like we had for Dr. Leg, Punk Mary arrives, Lofty arrives, might get Michael back, that would be nice. Just a few sort of characters from Dot's past,
Oh, they should bring back Colin and Michael. That'd be fantastic. Yeah. That'd be really good. Again, that would tie in for the 50th anniversary of Pride as well.
You see?
We're right at EastEnders.
Just put us in charge. We'll sort it all out. Don't worry about it. You do what you're doing. We'll sort out the centenary special, and then we'll just hand you our work when we're done. All right? Yeah, that's fine.
It's like homework.
We'll take a payment of £10,000 and just call it quits. Yeah, that'll be all right.
No one will mind. No. No, absolutely. Good idea.
So Sonia came into the calf this week wearing a familiar trench coat that's similar to the one that Dot wore in her first scene, and said to Kathy behind the thing, "I'll give us a glass of water so I can take a paracetamol. Give us a cup of tea, Kath, and a glass of water so I can take a paracetamol," which was Dot's first ever line when she entered the calf on her first ever episode.
To Lofty, yes. So, and Kathy was still there in those days as well. So it's sort of, it sort of felt the same. I thought it was quite nice. And Sonia was a worthy character to do that little tribute to, I think, as well. So it was lovely. Especially since Sonia does seem to be shape-shifting, especially this week into Dot.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody starts picking up a 20 Berkeley and Hedges menthol and a Bible before too long.
Yeah,
she's on the way. She is on the way.
She is. He's getting very, 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 very close. But yes, it was a lovely tribute, and well done, BBC, for kind of acknowledging that anniversary as well of her very first line. Before we move to then talking about the episodes this week, I just want to remind people that you can vote for us in the podcast awards.
if you haven't heard, I don't know if you haven't heard or not. We don't mention it a lot.
I will only mention it now. BritishPodcastAwards.com/vote. Put in Walford Weekly and click vote. If you have voted for us already, thank you very much. Please come by and pick up your hobnob or your chocolate digestive biscuit of your choice, of course. If you haven't voted yet, there's still time. And you get a biscuit. I'm promising biscuits to everyone. I don't know how this is going to carry out, but it's going to happen.
We haven't signed anything to promise biscuits, so you can't send us to court or anything. But, in theory, we offer you a biscuit.
It's spoken contract, though. Do you reckon people could take us for court?
Verbal contracts. Judge Rinder's very good. Judge Rinder used to go on about that verbal contract. So, Judge Grinder.
Judge Grinder.
Judge Grinder. Slightly different bloke.
I think we've all been judged on Grinder, haven't we, at one point?
That's another story altogether. Moving on.
So yes, please do get in touch. Do get in touch with us as well at Walford Weekly, and don't forget to vote. And if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button and click the bell to always get information for when we post on the channel, including our spoiler that we release every week. So we are starting the week with Mitch's new extended family. Yes, why not start the week with a fresh page, a fresh new family, and a fresh new executive producer.
Yes.
That's right.
Welcome,
he's been credited. Clenners is on the street and he's ready to direct and edit and executive things.
Stuff.
So
we always pretend that we understand.
We throw ideas and then expect them to pick them up.
Everything.
So Mitch's brother came this week, Avery.
Yes.
With a secret which wasn't held for very long. And his sons were introduced to the show as well this week. So how did how were the family with you then? Did you like Avery when he first came on the square? Did you
weirdly? I did quite like him. Like, he turns up in his big old flash car and immediately sort of brings everybody together in sort of turmoil when he's trying to drive through the marketplace. And everybody knows that the last thing that drove through there was a massive bus.
Yes, the bus.
So it's a bad sign if anything drives through there.
I wondered why they stopped people driving down that street, because there used to be a time when people used to always drive up and down that street.
Yeah, no more.
I thought they narrowed it or something, and they kind of made some kind of, I don't know, but now it makes sense. They must have said, nope, buses came down the street once.
Yes,
never
there was
again.
A bus down here once. Bad day, very bad day, very bad episode. Yes, so Avery's arrived, and he's very quickly he's sort of flashing his cash around, smoking cigars. So this is a guy that has money. This is a guy that appears to be the successful businessman, sort of driving around in a BMW. And we soon discover, once he has kind of got everybody together in the Vic, which I thought there was a nice little sort of, community feel to the square this week, and a lot of singing around on pianos, which I don't believe has been seen since in a London pub since the early 80s or something. They used to do it all the time in EastEnders, didn't they?
They did.
Just, playing around on the piano. In fact, I'd forgotten that piano was even there, and all of a sudden, this is what happens when you cast a musician in a role. They have straight to the piano and start singing and start regaling us with beautiful numbers, and that's what we got this week. Hello, Charlie.
I know, Charlie's appeared, everyone.
Charlie's kicking off now.
Say hello to Charlie in the comments.
And so we soon discover that this is Mitch's brother, and all is not well between them. There seems to be some sort of bad blood. And as the week goes on, we sort of discover that Mitch is very annoyed that Avery hasn't really shown his face very much over the years, especially with everything that he went through with Chantel. He could have done with his brother there for support, and all Avery's excuse really is I don't know, I'm just a bit rubbish with this sort of thing. Sorry.
Retcon was Avery's excuse.
Well, But then, so the secret being that apparently, we'll talk about the other two bakers that arrived in a moment, but Avery's kind of secret that doesn't remain hidden for very long is apparently that he has terminal cancer because he collapses during the week. I mean, this is Walford, isn't it? You're absolutely fine. Arrive in Walford, 5 minutes later, you're on your back, collapsed, and in dire need of Walford General. Welcome to Walford, Avery. So, I mean, I think this seems, if we're to take this, what we've been told at face value, this is a shame. Because I quite liked Avery at first impressions. I think he had quite a bit of charisma about him. What did you think of Avery?
I mean, he came in with a bit of a bang, didn't he?
Yes.
He came in like a lot of characters, like Brian Connolly's character, kind of like a bit of a lovable rogue type style. But then I suppose if you're going to introduce a new character, you need to have them instantly appealable. All right, Vi, how are you? And so I feel like
leave her alone.
So I feel like they did him well, and like you, I quite enjoyed the scenes in the Vic where like Billy and Martin was singing along, and Martin had a cigar.
Smoking cigars. None of these characters have ever picked up a cigar in their life, but Martin was kind of holding it, going, "This is a really weird looking cigarette."
But you know
drugs in this. What's going on?
Ben Mitchell started the president. You see, he started something new. He started smoking, and now everyone's going to be smoking.
Everyone's going to be starting smoking this week.
It's a whole new pandemic, and epidemic, I should say. And and yeah, no, I liked Avery. I did like Avery, but to be fair, because, and I don't think this is a spoiler for saying this, because we know he's not on the show for long. We know that he's only not. No, he's so. I feel like it warranted his kind of introduction to be kind of like this, because when his two sons were introduced this week. They kind of had a much more, I felt like it was a bit more subtle. Even our old drag queen, yes, even our old drag queen friend came strutting down as well with a very English accent.
Yeah, well, in fact, Finley was almost kind of forgotten about when you compare the how all three of them came in. You know, you've got Avery instantly making a big scene, you know, with his car, lots of drone shots introducing him. Got the drone out this week. That was nice to see. So he made quite a big entrance. A lot of drone shots. We'll talk about that in a second. And then obviously Felix arrived, or Tara, in full regalia. Instantly made a big impression. And then you had poor Finley, who sort of just kind of shuffled through the door and go, "Hi, I'm Finley. Nice to meet you." So I'm assuming we'll know more about Finley, because I feel like he's the one that we don't really know a huge amount about so far. He seems like a nice bloke, but I think that's about all we can really say about him so far. Felix, I can't wait to know more about Felix. Something about him or them. Sorry, this is going to take a while. Has that been confirmed, by the way? The whole pronoun thing, because I haven't seen that. The only reason I know that is because you told me. I haven't seen it.
I believe I read it in an article that Felix was referred to as them. But perhaps that's only when they are in drag. But I don't know for certain. I do not know that for certain, because it was in the article where they revealed that Felix was a drag artist.
We'll see.
But you're right, because Felix did feel like he kind of overshadowed their older brother a little bit, and it felt there wasn't any mystery to Finley though, so it didn't feel like they were trying to hide a secret. So I do worry that this might be the kind of Panesar brother syndrome, where one might get just left to kind of just go out into the woods and die. While another one kind of gets stronger. I know you're going to say it's only been a week. We can't judge this, that, and the other. But it's just that they're building this new family for Mitch. Which still feels alien for me to say this. They built a new family for Mitch, because I don't think of all the characters they could have built upon, I feel Mitch was the least likely.
For you?
No, I don't think just for me. I don't think it's just me.
You spent the past year moaning about Mitch and the fact that you're not that big a fan of him. So the fact that they're expanding him is what you're about.
But my point is that he doesn't have, like, what's he really done other than that one heroic scene on the square? What has he really done?
Well, maybe honestly, that's why that's why we're now expanding him, because he's about to do more stuff.
But because we've not learned enough about Mitch, like we've not known, like I said at the top of this discussion, it's like this whole story of him having a brother and his brother's two children is something that was never been mentioned before. Not once has Mitch been mentioned. Yeah, but other family members are mentioned. Like Karen this week re-mentioned that she has sisters.
Yes, she did.
Like we knew that. We knew she had sisters because she's mentioned it before. So if anyone, I would bring back Hannah from S Club 7. I would welcome that. That would have been fine because she was fun. Yeah.
Well, these people might be fun. Just park your car for a second and just maybe see what we can get. Maybe see what we get out of these characters. I personally think.
I just feel like that Finley and Felix have have more of an interest in a more long-term story than what Mitch has. And I think it'll still be a case that Mitch will still be kind of just left with nothing to do. And Felix and Finley will have more. But
we shall see.
We will see.
So there we are. So Mitch has now got the addition, as we say, of Finley, Felix, and Avery. Now, the whole thing between him and Avery, Karen knows him, Bernie knows him, so it's not like this complete stranger has sort of rocked up and Mitch has to introduce his brother to the rest of the family. So clearly they know him, so that's all right. And Bernie and Karen was kind of sort of aware of Finley and Felix. So what happens next, do you reckon? So Mitch is now
Finley dies.
Well, how long is that going to take, do you think? And is everything as it seems? I mean, I don't think that he doesn't seem to sort of kind of pull a Suki and pretend to his whole family that he's got terminal cancer. But
no, I don't think he is. I mean, with that, I don't know. I feel like it's just a short term kind of wait because I don't think the actor who's playing Avery there was no intentions for him to be long term because I think he's a musician, isn't he? So he's too busy.
Yes,
he's got other things to do. Yeah. So I feel like it's just an introduction for Finley and Felix, and this is what I mean. I feel like it's they're introducing like this younger couple of guys who kind of like could be a bit more and a bit better representation as well as a LGBT Q plus champion, from Felix. I need to remember his name. Felix. But
yes.
Yeah, I just think that this is basically their introduction is that they're all going to grieve over Avery's death, which again is fine if we knew Avery for longer. I don't know how long this will go on for.
Well,
will it be a couple of weeks? Will it be a month? I mean, if it's like Daniel, like Jean and Daniel, I did feel bad for Daniel dying because it had been a long time and you got to know the character.
Yeah.
I think if they're going to develop Avery a little bit beforehand, then good. I'm on board, but I worry.
Well, I don't worry at all. I feel like they wouldn't have given him quite as much personality if he was just going to die like next week. Like they would just make him turn up, a little. I think we're going to have him around for a little while. Yeah, we don't really know the true ins and outs of his cancer. I was going to say how terminal is it? Obviously it's terminal. There's not really degrees of terminal, but as in how much longer he has and what sort of cancer he has. So I think there's going to be a lot more stuff to come. I think, and I look forward to it. So we shall see.
So do I. I'm not trying to sound.
You're a miserable man.
Angry toward them. Like I say, Finley and Felix, I am excited to learn more about.
Yes.
It's just that, as you say, as it stands, as in that 1 10-minute scene, the center stage went to Felix. So I'm hoping that Finley then gets a little bit more.
If me and you were sat here and I was sat in drag, eyes would be on me.
Of course,
Alex.
you would.
I hate to break it.
I think they are anyway.
I hate to break it. Well,
Rob. Let's be honest. Look at you. Your stubble and your chili chin chin.
The first thing Alex said to me today was, "Look at you!" And I just put gel through my hair, put like a shirt on. I was like, "Oh, thanks." It was like, "Your face, you've got hair." I was kind of like, coming from you, it grows. I've finally got hairs after all these years. I'm so proud.
Mine's like cress. It just comes out. There's lots of cotton wool underneath. I just grow it in a yogurt pot and then just stick it on my face. That's how my beards grow.
Like a young Santa. There we go.
We should mention that Finley, actually saying about Finley, he's not actually the biological son of Avery. He's the son from another man who's
Mitch,
Avery's wife. Yes.
Mitch, then.
So, do you think it's going to be Mitch? I wondered if it's going to be Mitch.
Of course it will.
It's the Patrick Kim story, isn't it? Again, isn't it?
One of them will be Felix. Will be Mitch's son. Of course,
I thought that too. They have to tie him in somehow. So again, we're gonna find out how Mitch had. I wonder if it'll be when he was with Karen as well. How old is Finley? Is he as old as Keanu, as Phil used to say?
It looks a bit. Yeah, it looks a bit older than Keanu. So I'd say he's probably, both of them are in mid-20s. I think Felix is probably younger. So,
So do you think Avery on his deathbed's going to be like, Finley's your son?
Of course,
that'll be the
is.
duff.
Of course he is, and that's going to be Finley's story. Where he kind of everything he knows was a lie. That'll be his story.
No!
Yes.
Oh my God! Do you reckon they'll recreate "You Aren't My Mother," but you ain't my father?
You ain't my father. Yes, I am. Yeah,
I'd like that
Yeah,
because they like going back to the past recently. Like we said at the top of the show, they seem to be doing a lot of throwbacks to the past. So I wouldn't
let us know in the comment section below what you expect from the new bakers. Who's your favourite? What do you think is going to happen? Or let us know by contacting us on all our social medias that we will give you at the end of the show.
So now we are going to talk about a couple of smaller stories. Starting off with Mick and Linda and Janine. Linda has gone to court and gone to police, and also had a few social workers visit her. And they've all said,
all off screen,
we're going to keep our eye on you. All off screen, we're going to keep our eye on you. But suffice to say that we're going to just, we're going to give you a slap wrist, and you can go on your way. I mean,
straight away. Is that right? She drove, as far as they're concerned, she drove her daughter, drunk as a skunk, into a tree. You naughty girl, don't do that again. So if you do that again, then we'll be back. But just you be warned. Be warned. Is that right? Is that what would happen? Does that feel realistic? I don't know.
I feel like everyone's been very forgiving.
I've never been investigated by social services, funnily enough. So I don't really know how lenient they are with this sort of thing. But it seems like an odd thing to be lenient about.
I feel like a lot of people who work in social services will feel a bit insulted that that's the kind of direction that they went.
Hey,
especially
if you work in social services in the comment section, do let us know what you would do if you were Linda's social worker.
What would you have done if you were Linda's social worker? I mean, has she gotten away with also having drove and driven? Has she gotten away with that as well? I'm not sure. Drunk on life, Rob.
I don't know. I feel like it's not the first time that social services have sort of poked their heads around the door for Linda since she's been an alcoholic. I feel like this isn't her first brush with them.
Yeah, but are the police convicting her for anything? Because it felt like that was kind of that's what I thought. Because she kind of said, "Oh, when I went to the police station, well, she said the female police officer kind of looked at her judgingly, and she should get herself used to it for when she goes to prison," which I thought was a very odd thing to say, because I would have thought that if you were in a room full of prisoners, they're all probably fine thinking you're in the same boat as them, so they won't judge that much. The only person on the street who seemed to be judging was Sonia, or Dot too, as she's now becoming.
Dot the second.
And like she kept like directing Mick like traffic toward Linda all the time. She goes, "We better talk to Linda. We better talk to Linda." Yeah. And this kind of really upset Janine as well. Janine was going to get more and more frustrated because she's kind of again losing her grip on Mick and feeling that Mick's kind of going again now toward Linda's wins.
Mean, I kind of, I say I feel for her. I don't feel for her in that respect, but Mick, they kind of stepped out of the Vic, and Mick sort of saw Linda sitting on a bench, feeling really sorry for herself, and literally just sort of abandoned Janine. And just sort of wandered over, quite in the open, was sort of holding Linda's hand and giving her. We didn't see any of Janine's reaction at that point, which I kind of thought that we were going to kind of just like watch her glaring, plotting his eventual demise. But I mean, it could not be more obvious that Mick and Linda are. I think even Janine knows it deep down that Mick and Linda are at some point going to sort of reconcile before Mick's inevitable horrible ends. That
I was about to say, which makes Mick's exit seem more and more obviously bad happening.
It's not going to go well, is it? It's not going to. It's not going to be a nice little. I'm off to find myself. It's not going to be that at all, is it? It's going to be something horrible.
And at the hands of Janine as well, it's feeling more and more likely as well.
But this week, Mick and Shirley and Ollie have now gone off to see Zaza. First real mention of Jar Jar since Tina's death, really. She didn't bother going to the funeral. So Mick and Shirley are going to go on update.
But she's very upset about Tina.
She's very upset.
They did make a point of mentioning that.
She's far too upset to go to the funeral, but she is upset. That now leaves, because Linda has said to Mick, "I'd like to go back to work because I need to go back I need to be back in a pub because I'm not going to drink, but I need to be back in a pub."
I know. I mean, that's really winding me up that they keep doing this. It's like every time she says, "Oh, I promise I won't drink. Oh, I promise I can keep sober. I'm sure it'll be fine." It's like, how many chances has Linda actually had? Well, we all knew this was not going to work out. Get a job at the cafe. Ask Kathy.
Go back in the laundrette. Remember Linda in the laundrette?
Work in the giant laundrette. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought like there's not many departments that Linda could find herself.
It's like a department store.
It is. She could take over Vinny's little phone stall. That'll be all right for us.
Yeah,
no alcohol involved there whatsoever.
Now?
I don't think that exists anymore. I'll be honest. I think that might have just sort of faded away. I don't think that's the thing anymore. But anyway, so Linda and Janine now are going to be looking after the Vic, which frankly I sort of look forward to, because this is going to be basically a week of Linda and Janine at each other's throats, because both of them promised to Mick that they behave one another, and the second that Mick climbs into the car and drove away, they were like, right, yeah, like throwing barbs at each other. So I look forward to this, because this whole Linda and Janine thing I've enjoyed. I love Linda versus Janine. It's a great little rivalry. And it's obviously going to really ramp up in the coming months. We don't know how Mick's leaving, but we know he's leaving, and it's going to get much worse before it gets any better.
It's going to be terrible.
It's going to be awful. So it really is.
And it's all Danny Dyer's fault as well.
Look what you've done, Danny Dyer.
Look what you've done, Dyer.
Look what you've done to us. So that's basically it for that story. Linda and Janine are going to be looking after the Vic next week together. Linda has basically implied, well, I'm still in charge because it's still my name above the door, which it is. Janine's got no say there whatsoever. So maybe that's going to be Janine. Maybe that's going to be Janine's next move, is that she's going to try and get her name back above the door.
The license above the door.
Yeah, I think that's going to be her next move, to sort of remove Linda from having any say around the Vic.
I have to say that Janine's obsession with wanting the Vic back, and she keeps harking back to when she lived in the Vic with like Frank and Peggy, and before that Pat and Peggy. Like cumulatively, she only actually ever was in that Vic for about a year. So it's like it wasn't a terribly long time she was in that Vic.
It's always been a thing that she's wanted, though, isn't it? Like ever since kind of Frank died, I think she's almost sort of seen the Vic as rightfully hers. You know, that was the main reason that she got with Archie, because that means that she could have the Vic. Just before she left, the last time she was on the square, she was trying to get hold of the Vic, and then obviously David and Phil sort of messed her around, but she was trying to get hold of the Vic in that time. It's not. To be honest with you, I've been surprised by how. And I know this sounds ridiculous, but how little she's actually mentioned kind of wanting to own the Vic. And I know she's there now and she works there, but I thought that we were going to get a lot more of her sort of looking around, looking at her, empire that she wants. But it's not really been kind of implied all that much that she is genuinely after the Vic.
She wants Mick, doesn't she? It's Mick she wants. But then I think when she loses Mick, it's going to be the Vic. When she lost Mick, it's the Vic. So so she has to pick. What does she want? The Mick or the Vic?
Don't be a dick.
And also, I wish that she would show a degree of concern for her daughter Scarlett, because again, after exactly that, that's exactly the reaction that is for. Yes. I mean, it feels like
is she living? She's living in the Vic at the minute. Is she living in the Vic?
Yeah, she's living in the Vic.
But Scarlett now lives at the Vic.
No, well, I don't think she does. I think Scarlett lives with Sonia still.
She hasn't. No, she's no way just kind of dumped. Like, can you you look after Scarlett? I'm off to the Vic. Bye. After everything we went through to get Scarlett,
I think that Janine still lives with Sonia technically, but she's spending time with Mick now. Mick's found his mojo, if you know what I mean. So he's got his libido back, and he's like sexual. Then I think Janine's like capitalizing on that Mick's dick, and then and now and I think Scarlett's kind of just being left. So this is what I mean. It feels like Scarlett's just like a forgotten part of her story.
Facts,
and I just wish that they would remember her every now and then.
Maybe we'll see next week exactly where Scarlett fits into everything, because Janine is going to be trying to be against Linda all week. Then presumably she's going to want to be up earlier, and she's going to want to be kind of first and foremost when Linda eventually turns up to work. So maybe we might see Scarlett around the place. I don't know.
Maybe
we'll see.
So the next small story we have this week is Stacey and Kheerat, and he's finally revealed his love to the whole wide world, or more specifically, he's revealed his love to Suki, his mother, after Stacey had a bit of a go at him because she felt like she was some kind of dirty little secret, which she kept saying all the time. And for some bizarre reason, it's like when Stacey says jammers, it really entertains me when she says it, dirty little secret. So jammers and dirty little secret are my two favourite words for the lexicon of Stacey.
It's the dictionaries of Stacey. Yes, so apparently Stacey and Kheerat are officially a thing now. Now, Stacey's out in the Stacey's no longer a dirty little secret. Kheerat has, done everything. Snogged Stacey in front of his mum and everything. And Suki sort of stood there glaring. I mean, I'm quite happy about this because I like Stacey and Kheerat together. Did you, however, get the impression that Kheerat was sort of having immediate second thoughts as soon as sort of Stacey's kids kind of let him loose around the shop and started asking for sweets and started trying to imply that they should get free stuff because she's now with Stacey?
It was a bit before that as well, don't forget, because Suki kind of planted the seed by saying that, like, oh no, I've got no problem with you. She's quite cunning, old Suki. She was like, I've got no problem with you dating Stacey. However, have you thought about the responsibilities that you're going to have to pick up, like her family and her children and the faces
and her lesbian wife?
And her lesbian wife, exactly, that she's married to. So you can.
I think that's more Suki's concern than anything else, isn't it?
I know. Maybe she's just trying to convince Stacey to, have the divorce, and then perhaps Suki can finally make that move with Eve. Finally,
maybe.
Poor Eve.
I wonder where this is going with Suki and Eve. I really do. I mean, obviously, at some point, it feels like they're going to get together at some point because they're building it up. And Eve is clearly quite taken by Suki, and who wouldn't be? But I wonder how long it's going to be. I think it's going to kind of be in the air until some of these questions that we've got about the Panasars start to get answered. And when we discuss the next story, we shall discuss about what potential theories we have about what's coming from the Panasars. But it seems like big stuff, which I'm very excited by, because about bloody time.
It's not necessarily the next story, but when it kind of is the next story, because we're going to also talk about Ben and Peter's kind of very angsty relationship that they've got at the moment, because Peter has let on to Jay that he knows that Ben was the one who beat him up. Jay said to him, like, oh, you don't know what Ben's been through, because yet again, let's everyone else's problems doesn't matter. It pales in comparison. If Ben Mitchell is upset, then we must all bow. Well, I get that, but he hadn't been before that happened to Peter. Let's be honest.
That was just Ben in typical Ben, to be fair. But I think everybody's sort of kind of. So I don't think we should.
I don't think we should kind of like wash away Peter's feelings here. And this is a rare opportunity for everyone to say, oh my goodness, Alex is defending Peter, because I do feel like Peter also, he kind of let out a good argument of the fact that ever since this has happened to him, he's not been able to go outside. He's lost a lot of his confidence, and he feels like he's not the man he once was, because he's quite a confident young man. He ran around the square naked with a cape at one point and then fell over. Absolutely none at all. And so Ben and Peter do have a conversation. They shake hands, and everything seems to be right with them at the moment. But I mean, I feel like it's only going to take one thing to trigger Peter, and it's going to cause him and Ben's relationship to kind of break again. And I think he's sick and tired of the fact that Kathy, his nan, is kind of constantly defending Ben all the time.
What was that line that he said to Kathy? I quite like that line. It was something like, "We're not family, we're sort of mismatched DNA," or something. It was something along those lines. I can't quite remember the line, but it was a good line. Yes. So, I mean, the thing is, you can completely sympathise with Peter at this stage, which never happens, because as far as he's concerned, everyone is just sort of going, "Oh, poor Ben, poor Ben, poor Ben." Yeah, I'm afraid, Peter, that you're a reason why poor Ben is a thing. And it's kind of like, well, no, he attacked me, he left me unconscious, he made me too scared to leave the house, and now I'm supposed to have sympathy for him and expected to shake his hand and expected to sort of say, "Oh, there, Ben, everything's okay. I know you didn't mean it." Like, no, actually, you can sort of definitely see where Peter's coming from, and I can imagine and totally see why he would be massively frustrated with the rest of his family. Because everybody is, I mean, Bobby isn't it? Bobby's just sort of trying to keep the peace, whichever kind of way the fire's going.
Sorry for Bobby. Well, he seems to be getting it from both sides, doesn't he? So whenever he tries to defend Peter, Ben gets at him. Whenever he tries to defend Ben, Peter gets at him. And then when he just makes an off remark, like, "I made £10 tip today," Ben and Peter both attacked it. It's like, so they had a common ground on that, at least.
Yeah, that was nice. Poor Kathy, and Kathy as well is basically trying to keep the whole family afloat and trying to keep their heads above water. So I don't see. The thing is with Kathy, I sort of feel like she has sort of kind of abandoned Peter in this respect, which doesn't really feel that Kathy. It sort of feels like Kathy would at least try and just deal with Peter a little bit better than she has essentially, just instead of basically to say, "Peter, will you just grow up, for goodness sake?" I'd like Kathy to sort of be a little bit nicer to Peter in that. I can't believe I'm saying all this about Peter.
No, I know. More sympathetic, though.
That's where we've gone to. I feel like Peter is, like you say, it's going to take one little thing and Peter will sort of just go, do you know what? Screw this. And I think might lead into Peter's exit, if I'm honest. He'll do something silly and sort of grow frustrated by the rest of his family. Maybe he'll report Ben to the police eventually.
Yeah.
Because the police were after him. They haven't forgotten that Walford Police, because Walford Police need all the help they can get. They have not forgotten that Walford Police are still technically looking for the Walford attacker. So maybe Peter is just going to kind of grass Ben up, because he's not a Mitchell and Peter is not averse to the odd bit of grassing. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. Although he never grasped his brother Bobby, did he? He just went away. Perhaps that'll be the thing. Maybe he'll do the same thing again instead of holding this. This
seems to be a bit of a history for Peter, actually. To be fair, doesn't it? If you think about it, Peter's life over the past 10 years or so has basically been something horrific happens to him via another member of the family, and he's expected to keep quiet about it and forgive and forget. And it's kind of like at some point you're kind of going to go, no, I don't want to do that. So. I can't believe we are sympathising with Peter, but that's where we're at. Who knew? Here we are. Power of Clenners.
So the final big story of the week then is the Mitchell story, the fake out, some might say. The big story, they're kind of...
What's it?
The story is that Phil is in prison and he's getting lots of threats, and he's desperately scrambling, trying to get people to help him. They don't help him. And so he then ends up apparently having a fight in prison, but we don't quite know that, because then there's something that happens at the very end, which is the big reveal, which I'll say right now, I'm glad they didn't stretch that out for all it's worth, because I swear to goodness.
Because we knew that Phil wasn't going to die.
They would never have killed off Phil. And as much as I enjoy watching Sharon having snot dripping out of her nose, I did not want to see that for more longer than one episode at a time. You know what I mean? It was fine for once. But none more. But then outside of prison, lots of things were happening too. Sam is still trying to double cross his brother, her brother, and Kat to get the nightclub, because she's promised Shirley that she would do it and then give Shirley a cut of it. Or Peggy's bar where you can buy Peggy.
One thing we got from this week is clearly Peggy's is here to stay.
I know. And that picture of Peggy, which wasn't even Peggy, it was just Barbara Windsor. It was a bit
just in her Carry On days. I
know. I felt a little bit like,
what did Peggy used to get up to in her youth? That's what I want to know.
It's all on celluloid. Sharon announces to Phil that she loves him. Phil asks Ben outside of prison to get some dirt on Kheerat, which is what you mentioned earlier on the podcast. So the Panasars are in a little bit of trouble with a new character that got introduced this week, and we found out is that actually going to become a permanent character called Ravi.
Hello, Ravi.
Rob has quite a fancy for.
Who's what else? Zach who?
What else happened? Kat broke up with Phil as well.
Well, yes.
All kinds of stuff happens. So like we do, this is it. Like we do with like stories where lots and lots of things happen. Let's just talk about bits and pieces and things we like.
Throw it into the air, see what we can.
Throw it into the air. So come on, Rob, you start off. So, what did you go? What did you get?
Well, first of all, what I want to talk about is, as you say, Kat breaking up with Phil. Now, what I want to kind of discuss here is, we have had varying degrees of irritation by the Kat and Phil thing. It doesn't bother me quite as much as it used to, whereas if anything, you've grown more irritated by it as the weeks have gone on. And, we've sort of gone like that with our feelings towards it. Apparently, Kat broke up with Phil this week, and Sharon immediately sort of stepped in and started, basically went down on her knees, proclaiming her love for Phil. I'll always love you. No. So, my irritation by this is the fact that clearly Sharon is just never. The Phil and Sharon thing is just never going to end. Everything that Phil has done, we've discussed this before. Anything that Phil has ever done, Sharon is clearly never going to. Phil is clearly what we're supposed to believe is the man for her. So no matter what happens, does this now put Sharon back with Phil and Kat back on her own? Which would you prefer if you had to pick one? If you had to pick one, I know you were going to say that. But I know. But if you have to pick one of them, which one do you go for? Do you just kind of put Sharon and Phil back together? Because that seems to be where it's going.
I mean, to be fair, Sharon's the one that makes the most sense, I guess. Yeah. And especially since Sharon decided to make a phone call to a certain brother of Phil's.
See, now you mentioned a fake out. I genuinely thought that they'd done something absolutely insane, and that sort of Ross Kemp was just going to be standing on top of the stairs on Friday's episode at the end. I genuinely thought that's where it was heading.
I think that it's going to happen. And I think
he's going to make a return.
I think he will. And I think if the press team have any sense whatsoever,
they'll keep
not flipping reveal it beforehand. Keep it quiet. It'll have such a bigger impact. And I tell you what, the number of people who will go back to rewatch that episode will be humongous if you said that Grant is coming back. I think Ross Kemp will come back. I don't think Ross Kemp will come back for long.
Of course,
I think it'll be a short stint. But yeah, I think he's due back.
Apparently, Grant thinks his brother's dead. It would seem.
Well, I don't know what Sharon said to Grant, though.
No,
she just phoned him up and left an answer phone message and said, I need you, I need help. But then he rang her back.
He rang her back.
That's true.
He rang her back. True. So, and that ringing back, I mean, yeah, we could just about manage, she would ring Grant at that moment and say, I need some help. But then the fact that that we saw Grant ringing her, the word Grant appeared on her phone and Sharon sort of scurried away and answered the phone. That was something. Something's going on there. I don't know. I genuinely did think it was building up to sort of Grant just appearing at the top of the bar, with Peggy's face behind him on Friday. That would have been quite a good ending to the week. That
would have been pretty cool.
I would have been going mental if that had happened. But you think that we might get a surprise Grant return at some point?
I do.
It wouldn't be the show's worst idea, would it?
It would not be the show's worst idea, and it'd be a real good kind of kick into gear for Clenshaw as well. I think it'd be very good if he could get a big character like Grant back for a short-term contract.
Well, what we have got is this is all going to kick off on Monday, on the first episode of next week, which is written by the fabulous Simon Ashdown, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. So Monday, yes, I will mention it. I do not care. So so Monday's going to be one to watch. Apparently Monday is very good.
Monday, do you say, Rob?
Episode number 1. Well, no, technically it is on Monday because it airs on.
I know.
It's
just that you said Monday a lot. You said Monday's going to be Monday.
Monday, written by Simon Ashdown.
6 a.m. Rob will be there.
I should be that. I will do as well. I should be that man's agent.
I can't believe how you watch it so quickly as well. Like this, I do. I messaged Rob on Monday morning and said I'm going to watch it.
Yeah, I would have been one of the first people in the UK to know that Grant was back if that had happened on Friday, and I'd had to have kept that secret. And I'd have been part of, because I'm very much a belief that if something happens on these box setting things that's big, then it's kind of a shame that sort of people will get spoiled by it inevitably, because some people will have watched it and some people won't.
That's the thing. I wonder if they would do it though while they're in box. I wonder how far in advance they knew that they were going to go to box sets. And I wonder if they will kind of keep Grant
it's
back.
It's not like the COVID thing where they sort of had to scramble and almost make it up as they went along. They knew Wimbledon was going on. They knew they did it last year. So I would imagine actually they had a fairly good idea what they were going to do. There would have been a time when the show would have been written specially for this. I remember the times when whenever they had to move it to a bank holiday Monday or something, a special episode would have been written, lines would have been written to sort of reference the fact. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see. We are only on week 3 next week of this, so we'll kind of see how it goes. Because
the other thing is talking about the box sets, is that you and a few other people have said that this week felt a lot different.
I did.
And I don't know if I'm seeing it, maybe I'm watching it through a different eyes or something, but the one thing I would say felt a bit different this week was that this week there was like one big story like this, and it felt like you were watching a box set series of 4 episodes. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So there was one big story for this week, rather than if it was going to be released throughout the week, it would be lots of little, it would be a normal soap, so there'd be lots of stories carried along. And I wonder if they will carry on with that while they're being shown as box sets, which again makes me wonder how long they knew for.
The thing is, I appreciate here how hypocritical I have been when I say, because I remember when Kate Oates took back over from John Send. Kate Oates went into a second little sort of caretaking era a couple of months back, and episode 1, you were all on Twitter going, "Oh, you can tell Kate Oates is back in charge." I was like, one episode, stop it, and all of a sudden, Chris Clenshaw's taken over. Oh, you can tell, Chris Clenchaw, and I'm doing that. But there just was a different vibe about it.
What was it that felt?
I don't know. I can't put my finger on it, but it just felt a bit different. Now, what this may have to do with was the direction of the week. This week was directed by someone called Duncan Foster, who has actually never directed for EastEnders before, but he is a sort of stalwart of directing Corrie and Emmerdale. And I'm fairly sure, someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm fairly sure that he directed Emmerdale's live episode for their 40th. So he's one of these directors that ITV used to pull out for the big episodes around their soaps.
I love a live episode.
Well, I don't think we're getting one. But what I mean is, he's a very established sort of soap director, never done EastEnders before, but he's done some of the big stuff on the ITV soaps. So if they've got a director like that permanently on the payroll, that's marvellous. followers. We'll have him. Thank you very much indeed. Hence, all the drones and how the week, because it felt like quite a big, exciting week in a way, didn't it? There was a lot going on. It felt like quite big, and it felt like stuff was kicking off.
That's what I mean. It felt like there was a big permanent story going throughout, and like the Phil story, instead of being one story of him in prison, lots of stories kind of attached itself to it, and it didn't feel wrong. I must say that didn't feel like it out of place, but it felt like more in place as a kind of like something you binge rather than something you see as individual things. So
who knows?
I feel like maybe
that was deliberate in terms of the box setting. We don't know. We'll never know. We can make our assumptions and pretend that we know, but we don't know.
No, we don't know nothing.
So the interesting thing with Phil in prison. Now, just talk about this story briefly. Was I thought this was all quite interesting because, and the difference is, I know that I'm a much bigger fan of Phil than you are, so we differ from that straight away. I understand that. But I kind of quite liked all this, and I thought it was really interesting to sort of see Phil. Because I said a few weeks ago that it's interesting to sort of, when Phil is on the square, Phil is very much sort of the linchpin, the kingpin, he is the one, that everyone's scared of. However, when Phil is in prison, there's always someone more scary and younger than you in prison that is going to be more intimidating. And I think that was very evident this week. Phil was sort of a little bit lost this week in terms of how he deals with things. Him just sort of throwing his weight around isn't going to cut the mustard in prison. With a younger, stronger, slightly more psychotic guy, and I wonder if we're going to see him again because he was.
I loved his name.
What was his name? Erskine or something like that.
Erskine.
That's a good name. That is a good name.
It sounds like a name that's been reversed. You know what I mean? Like the episode of Backwards in Red Dwarf. It's like Erskine. It sounds like that every time.
Maybe if we place name forwards, it'll reveal some massive plot. Like I'm
it's
Sharon's
secret.
brother.
Another one.
I'm Phil's son. So that was all kicking off. Now, obviously, we should discuss Ravi because Ravi is Ravi is interesting in more ways than one because Ravi was after information on Kheerat straight away. That was kind of that we sort of discovered that's what Ravi wanted because Phil was after a burner phone and Ravi turned around to him and said, "Yeah, well, if you can get me information on Kheerat Panasar, then that'll do." And Phil was like, "What a coinky dink! My son works for Kheerat Panasar. Wow, do you know Albert Square? Isn't it great? You should try that. You should try the artist.
You should visit.
Try and visit this place, which I think he will." So, I mean, the big first question is, how does Ravi know the Panasars? Why does he know Kheerat? And where is Daddy Panasar in all this?
Well, where is Daddy Panasar in all this? That's an interesting thing. See, that's the thing. Is he some kind of long lost brother of
I wanted this.
Of the Panasars? So Daddy Panasar's been kind of sowing his seeds elsewhere, or has he got some kind of link to that family that Suki has suddenly become best friends with all of a sudden? Well, her friend Ranveer.
Yes, I mean, I don't know if this is. I mean, this has been released, so I don't. Am I allowed to say what's been released about this character? Has
it been released of how he knows them then? Because I'm not.
Well, has it details about him and who and about some. Right. Okay. So basically, I'll say spoiler. If you don't want to know, fast forward like a few seconds. He is Ranveer's son. His uncle's son. That's his.
What uncle? Yes. Oh, so uncle who comes in.
He is uncle's son.
Oh,
so that's son. How uncle's son. So cousin, surely. This is how he will sort of be aware of the Panasars.
Right. So why is uncle then? Do you think uncle wants information?
Maybe.
Or do you think he's jealous of what the relationship that Kheerat has with Uncle? Because Uncle always goes to him, doesn't he, for any kind of jobs he wants doing?
I mean, what I did discover, because we were wondering sort of what Uncle's relationship, Ranveer, this guy's name is, but Uncle's much more fun. We were talking about like, sort of what Uncle's relationship is with the Panasars and sort of is he related and is he not? And I can confirm that he's not related. It's one of those things where it's like he's been around for that long that the kids call him uncle, but he's not related. He's not related. However, Ravi is related to him because he is his son. So that possibly explains why. And Ravi is going to be a regular character. He's got a promo pic. He will be arriving on the square again in the summer. We should be seeing Ravi again soon. So I'm very excited because this all spells big stuff for the Panasars, and they have been crying out for a massive story since they arrived.
I know.
So I can't wait. This is very, very exciting. I cannot wait to see where this is all going to go.
I mean, how long have the Panasars been on the square? And they've just
over 2 years.
And they've just been given bits and bobs here and there. Yeah. So it looks as though, and it's I don't think it's a coincidence that they're kind of being tied in with the Mitchells much more embedded than they have been before, because they kind of just cusped at it. Like Suki kind of begged Phil a few times for help. So I wonder, is this war that we've kind of been promised between the Mitchells and the Panesars about to come?
Maybe.
And what's Ravi's involvement with all this?
Does he want?
I mean,
what
does he want? What does he know? What does he know already about them?
What does he know? Oh, which is very exciting. So, and obviously, it's the fact that Ben was kind of basically responsible for Jags' death by being in a sulk.
Yes.
I can't even remember why Ben was in a sulk, but he was just in a sulk and removed Jags' protection in prison, didn't they? So, that's all still to come out, and I hope will come out during this. It seems like the sort of thing that would come out in this sort of storyline, so I'm excited by that. But so that's all still to come. Phil is now out of prison. We had a return of Keeble this week, which I quite enjoyed.
We did.
I didn't think we were going to get Keeble again, but can we just talk about this phone that she gave him? A phone.
Well, the phone that when you press 3, you get a text message sent.
You get a text message. Is that a thing? Is that a thing?
I don't know.
Predetermined text message.
Sounds a bit magical to me.
3. It sounds a bit Thunderbirdsy, doesn't it?
But also, can Phil not
work for MI5? She's wasted in Walford Police, isn't she?
Is it too difficult for Phil to send? Is his thumbs too big? Can he not press the buttons very well? I don't know. It felt like it was a bit like dumbing down for Phil.
No, because Keeble was essentially. I think Keeble knew exactly what was going on in prison, because her and the guards are clearly having regular conversations, and the guards are clearly deliberately stirring it up. The whole point was that the guards are stirring everything up to put more pressure on Phil, so that Keeble can get her deal sorted. Now, we don't know for sure that Phil has actually given any information out at this point. All we know is that he's out of prison, and we were told that was the only way that he was.
So convoluted, isn't it? You just know.
We
do. It's going to be like, I pretended I was dead by stopping my pulse, and then I got into a body bag.
Sure. Well, this is the thing. A body bag was removed from Phil's cell.
Yes, so who's in the body bag?
Are we going to?
Well, it might be Erskine.
I swear to God, if they don't mention who was, we just accept that there was a body pulled out.
They have to explain
that.
And it better not be like that Sherlock episode where you explained how he jumped off a roof and didn't die. It's like it has to be. So they give lots of different what it could have been, but they never actually say what it was. They better blooming. They better not do something ridiculous. I just know that it's going to be something. You don't know. We're in a new era, Alex. We are in a new era. Anything might happen. That's why I felt excited as well. This is the headache. This is the hangover of the last year.
No, it's not. This is all Clenners now. Well, actually, to be fair, I don't know whether this is all Clenners. All the stuff with the Bakers definitely felt like all Clenners. This is him sweeping up all the story ends left over from the previous era to go into his new stuff, isn't it? So
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Which is why I feel like, again, he kind of spent like just 1 week to kind of just consolidate everything that needs to be said about Phil's storyline. We know Phil wasn't going to stay in prison for long. Let's just get rid of it and end it now. So that's it. And now he's out. Can we talk about though something that I found fascinating, and that is the fact that Sam is obsessed with getting Peggy's. And like last week, her goal was to get Kat to trust her so that she had like some kind of role in the Mitchell Empire. Then Shirley found out about the way she went about doing it. This week, she hired someone to give Tommy a bullet to then hand to Kat.
That was odd.
And then she was constantly trying to convince Kat to sign away the club by saying, "Oh, this is what the Mitchell way, this is what." And Phil's going to find out about this stuff. Why did Sam do it? I don't really know why she went around doing this.
I don't understand. I don't quite understand what the connection with Jonah is at this point, because she kept trying to say
I don't think there is a connection.
But she kept mentioning it and saying this. Sign it over to Jonah. Sign it over to Jonah.
But it's not being signed over to Jonah.
I know it's not. But why would Sam have the paperwork? Why would, in Kat's eyes, Sam have the paperwork?
That's true.
For Jonah. What's that got to do with Sam?
Exactly that. So that's and it's like when Kat found out or got the letter where she kind of read the letter and she found out that I know, but my heart did break for Sam.
I felt a bit sorry for her then.
And she was walking around the square looking like a lost puppy.
Grant didn't get one either, though, did he?
No, but then they didn't really
doesn't care about his siblings, so that's fine.
No, but then he didn't really leave. He didn't leave one for Ben either, did he?
No, he left one for Ben. He left one
for Ben.
He left one for Ben. He left one for Kat. He left one for Raymond. He left one for Sharon.
Raymond, who can barely read his own name yet.
Well, no, presumably, that's going to be one of those things where when you're 18, read this really depressing letter that your dad wrote when you were a kid.
Your dad died.
But yeah, Sam didn't get one, so she's devastated by that.
Of course she's devastated. I mean, it makes sense with Grant, though. But yeah, why did Sam not get one? Poor Sam. So I guess...
Wow.
So, but then I felt like that was kind of like mopping up the fact that gave Sam then the excuse to do what she did.
Fairly sure you're not supposed to have pens in prison, by the way, but we'll move on from that because
you're not meant to have mobile phones in prison. You're not meant to be allowed to kill someone in prison.
You're not supposed to, you're not supposed to have pens in prison because I don't think you're supposed to, because they're stabby things. You can stab someone in the eye with a pen.
I think you can have a biro. Can you stab someone with a biro?
I think you've got to be very sort of guarded when you're writing a pen. I might be making this up, but I'm fairly sure you're not allowed sharp implements like a pen.
Also, something I noticed is our little camp baked bean friend wasn't in prison. The one who was with Mick when you remember I forget his name, but he was
where have you gone?
when Mick went to prison for Stuart or something. Yeah. I can't remember where he went. I remember, and Mick had to steal a baked bean tin.
That was years ago. He's probably out.
Yeah, you reckon? He was like
dead.
Campest. He was like the camp. He was never dead. He was like the campest, like most threatening prison person in the history of EastEnders. But that prison also seems to change.
3 producers ago. John York's time, wasn't it?
Well, I remember him, and I wanted him back. His little camp licking of the baked bean tin. He was fantastic. So yeah, I missed him too. Yeah. But no, I really felt for Sam this week because like she went to Ben, and Ben said to her, like, the only person who's important in Phil's life is Phil Mitchell. And I felt like letting out a little cheer for that. And it's like it's true. And so Sam's kind of left in limbo now. Like, especially now Phil is being released. Like, what does she do now? Her sole purpose was really to come back to kind of fight for Phil outside, failed miserably, then went against Phil, a bit like Ben's introduction story as well. Remember when Ben got reintroduced and he decided he was going to take all of Phil's money?
Yeah.
Again, forgotten.
Yeah, Sharon, why is Sam against Phil all of a sudden? It's like,
why is Sam against Phil? That's what I mean. I don't understand.
Sam has returned specifically to plot against Phil. I don't get why. But
now there's a purpose for it. It's like they kind of realised that they got themselves into that situation. And so they said, oh, yeah, she didn't get a letter. So now Sam's got a purpose to do that. But I think the main reason was because she was trying to keep Shirley happy by not having Shirley tell the secret to Kat that she had set up the man to then throw bricks through the window and beat up the cabbies and so on and so forth, and then put them at gunpoint. I don't know. It just feels like Sam is a bit of a lost soul in everything.
Well, Simon Ashton will sort it all out on Monday.
I hope so.
He will sort it all out on Monday. It'll be absolutely fine. We're all left with no questions whatsoever. So there we are.
So do you like did you like the reveal of Peggy's as well? It actually felt like a nightclub.
Peggy's looks amazing, doesn't it? To be fair, it's just the name. It's just the name I'm not that fond of.
It's a silly name. And also there's a cocktail named after her as well. So get Peggy's in Peggy.
Get Peggy's in Peggy. But the club looks incredible. This is the best the club has looked in years and years and years.
Perfect.
It looks sensational. It looks sensational. I just hope that it's left as a nighttime thing. I don't need the characters kind of drinking wine at 11
coffee and
that seems unnecessary. But visually the club looks spectacular. I'm a massive fan of the new club, so just change the name and I'm happy. But there we are.
Is there anything else with Phil's story that you got excited about, or is that?
I think that was about it. Keeble was back, so that was nice to see. Phil's now out of prison, and basically all of this madness from this week is all going to sort of be explained by the wonderful Simon Ashdown on Monday.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure.
All the awards already.
All the awards, including for ourselves. Listen, we've got a spare couple of minutes, and we did shout out on Twitter this week to ask everyone's thoughts about Klenna's first week. So I'm going to read out some of those comments right at the end of the show for I Ain't One to Gossip.
You know me, I ain't one to gossip.
So this week on our Twitter, we asked everyone to let us know what they thought of Klenna's first week, because what better thing to do to a new executive producer than judge them on their first week
instantly?
Because it's, as we said on our Twitter, there's no more exciting time than when a brand new producer takes over, and you can kind of get a feel with things from the beginning, And as I said, I didn't feel like personally there was that much of a big impact, but I feel like it pretty much universally everyone else felt just like there was. So it was just me. So I'm happy to report that, though.
Miserable man, I told you.
Miserable that I am. Starting off with Matthew on Twitter, who's at MattOfficial92, who said, for a first week, it was very strong. It was nice to see some fresh scenes on screen. Loved the scenes with Sharon, Kat and Sam, and quite like all the community scenes and some of the kitchen sink element too. So do you feel like there was a lot of kitchen sink thrown in?
I felt like there was a lot more humanity this week. I felt that people were acting like people, which feels like something that we haven't had that much over the recent recently. Yeah, I agree with that. Actually, I think it did feel like it just felt so focused. I think that was the main thing. It felt very focused on the stories that it was telling. There wasn't sort of like, oh, we'll just throw that in. We'll just fill that little script with a random little scene of someone falling over in the marketplace. There was none of that. It was all very sort of focused, and it felt like the week knew what it wanted to do and sort of got to where it wanted to be in quite exciting fashion. So yeah, I agree with that.
That's true. Actually, there was no kind of like filler.
No,
it was everything had a purpose. Every scene it was important. Yeah, I'll give you that. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, so that's okay. At Ryan G Soap King 11. Hello, Ryan G.
Good name.
Soap. Yeah, very
One
good.
of us getting all that out in one go. I'm impressed. Well done.
Said Thursday's episode was brilliant. Clenshaw is coming in all guns blazing. Thursday is obviously the last episode of the box set. And isn't holding back. The Mitchell content recently has been top draw. So so obviously a fan of the Mitchells. As a fan of the Mitchells yourself, do you feel like there was a strong week for the Mitchells?
Yeah, I felt that they were sort of, cause I think I mentioned a grant helped massively. I think the fact that they sort of remember these things, and I think probably the fact that Peggy was sort of overlooking everything in the club as well, sort of added to that, didn't it? Really, it sort of felt like that sort of Mitchell spirit has never really disappeared, which was quite nice. Because to me, since Ronnie and Roxy died, the Mitchells have just disintegrated before our very eyes, haven't they? Connor. So
I mean, the Mitchells go through peaks and troughs. It's like if you watch the classic era in the 90s, they had, when Grant left, Phil did feel like he was kind of like taking the parts of all the Mitchells. And that took a little bit of getting used to, because you always had the softer side of Phil and the kind of more violent side of Grant.
Psychotic side of Grant.
The psychotic side of Grant. And so when Phil had to take over both roles, it did feel a bit weird and alien. But then it did. But then he kind of took that ball and went running with it in the 2000s. And then that's the Phil we kind of know and remember. But then that's the kind of Phil that I kind of stopped liking.
I feel like the thing is, Phil was a lot more evil in those days. When leading up to Who Shot Phil and all the horrible things he did to Lisa, which even though I'm a fan of Phil, I still don't think Phil ever suffered enough for what he did to Lisa, because he was basically responsible for her having a nervous breakdown and being the woman that she is today. Be nice to see Lisa again.
It would.
So, planners, write it down in your little notepad.
And Lou. And I'd like to see Louise back, actually, I must say.
We saw a picture of her, so she's not been recast off screen or anything like that.
No.
So that's always good to see. Yes, that's good. Just nicked a few pictures of her Instagram stuck out on Phil's wall. That was nice to see. But I think the Mitchells felt quite strong this week, and long may that continue. If Clennis' main aim is to sort of build up the families again, his next port of call should be the Beals. But
build up the Beals,
but we'll sort of
it's bringing back Ian, isn't it? And it doesn't look like Adam Wood yet has any intentions of returning. Let's be honest. And now they're getting rid of Peter. It feels like it's less and less likely that's going to happen.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens with the Beals.
All right, let him get on with the Mitchells and the Panasars for now, because we've been begging for the Panasars to have things to do, and finally they are.
Kathy can deal with the Beals on her own for now. Exactly, it's not of importance. But the Mitchells and the Panasars, please do feel free to put them in the limelight. For me personally, I know we differ on that, but that's the joy of subjective soap viewing, isn't it? That we can have different opinions and everything, and you'll get something you enjoy out of it, because Kheerat will have a big role to play in the coming months as well, won't he? Might even get topless at some point, just for you.
Please do. There
you go.
Else? No, that's it. So Rob, let us know, how can people get in touch with us and let us know their views?
You can contact us on Twitter and Instagram at Walford Weekly. You can find us on Facebook at Walford Weekly Podcast. On YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to get notifications about our videos. And you can listen to us on Apple, Podbean, Spotify, or any of your favourite podcast sites. You can email us at robwalfordweekly@gmail.com or alexwalfordweekly@gmail.com. There we are then. Clenna's first week is under our hats. What's the phrase I'm looking for? What was I trying to say there? Clenna's first
I have
week
no
is
idea.
under. It's done. Clenna's first week is done.
His tenure as executive producer is underway and started.
That'll do. God, if you need to correct me on phrases, I know I'm in trouble. So, yes, there we are then. I'm excited, I have to say, and I can't wait for next week. Remember Simon Ashdown on Monday. We love to see it. And you can join us at the same time next week for the fallout from whatever may occur next week. Until then, it is a farewell from Alex.
And it's a fare thee well from Robert.
See you next week, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Vote.